Why is it that we have so many series with promising starts but absolutely abysmal endings? Jujutsu Kaisen? Washed. Bleach? Washed. Dragon Ball? Well, guess you can't have a bad ending if you just never end the series. Battle shonen, or battle-oriented series in general, usually provide an immediate and clear sense of escalation. Your hero gets stronger or smarter in a way that is often made physically evident, before defeating the story arc's respective antagonist. Suddenly, a new villain shows up, even stronger or smarter, throwing the hero for a loop. All that training, all that struggle, and they can't even match up to the new face on the block. Thus, the cycle continues. Now, you've got to keep viewers invested, not only to make a good show, but likely to keep paying rent. You have to make them believe that the new villain is truly a menace, and not just a copy of the last villain with higher stats. If a series grows old enough, it eventually gets to the point where it creates a villain that's just invincible, untouchable. It's not even a slight increase in power, or just someone more cunning. A foe that no one in the cast can even get close to fighting, swatting the heroes away like flies. There's plenty of villains that start out like this, but see the gap close over time. But that's not what this video is about. I'm talking villains that maintain that status, that fear factor, all the way to the end. They create a feeling like it takes everything the heroes have just to survive. Their place in the power scaling is deliberately unclear until they're faced directly. We don't know what they can do, but we do know what doesn't work on them. In Dragon Ball Z, we had seasons of people shitting themselves when they heard Frieza's name. I mean, he just sat in a chair the whole time and occasionally killed someone. But we knew the strongest characters at that point couldn't hold a candle to whatever he was hiding. Vegeta spends the arcs leading up to the fight trying to gain immortality, because he knows he won't stand a chance without it. And suffice to say, he was right. Up until Goku unlocks Super Saiyan, Frieza is a god to the rest of the cast. Every foe up until now was stronger, but you could see their limits. Even the weakest fighters could help wear them down. But all the Z fighters can accomplish is annoying Frieza, making him pull out another form, making the audience question just how much more he was holding back. On the other hand, One Piece doesn't have as many long-running villains. Most of its antagonists are taken out the same arc they're introduced. Even if a villain wins at first, it's only a temporary setback for the main cast. But one of the most desperate stretches of the manga was when Luffy took on Big Mom, one of the 4 Emperors of the Sea. The Emperors were the cream of the crop, the contenders for King of the Pirates, and up until now, Luffy had been on a meteoric rise to the top. But rather than a triumphant victory like his fight with Doflamingo, or a hard-won marathon like the war against Kaido, Big Mom is portrayed as this unstoppable, unceasing force. The Straw Hats spend the story arc sneaking around her, running from her, doing everything just to escape her clutches. It's not an easy retreat either. Luffy faces one of his toughest battles yet against just one of her lieutenants, and several others have to sacrifice themselves just to buy the crew more time. In both of these examples, the heroes do eventually surmount impossible odds and emerge victorious. And I find the ways in which Frieza and Big Mom were defeated to be a satisfying way to deal with this trope. But it's not a recipe for success, and an invincible villain can just as easily be a hindrance to writers and the stories they tell. Unless you really want the bad guy to win, you have to find some way for them to be defeated. It can't be obvious, or else you kill the audience interest and investment. If Goku was told about some Frieza-killing sword, then all the posturing about how he's untouchable won't hold any weight. No matter how hopeless it gets, we all know it'll be resolved once they find the sword. Take Bleach, for example. The last arc builds up your watch as the biggest, baddest villain in the universe, eclipsing even the strength of Aizen. He doesn't often get involved, but when he does, no sword or Bankai is enough to make him sweat. And as the series gets closer and closer to the final chapter, you start to wonder if they're ever actually gonna fight this guy, and if so, how the fuck they're supposed to win. So, how do they do it? A magic weapon introduced 2 chapters earlier, a deus ex machina for you nerds in the crowd. Granted, it's a bit more understandable in this instance, considering the author's health was declining at the time, but it makes the build-up feel worthless. Every amount of progress the heroes make inconsequential. No matter what the Soul Society did, no matter what they sacrificed, literally none of it mattered as much as using Yhwach's weakness. Not that a weakness can't be used well, but it needs to be earned. Half of an invincible villain is mystique, and so it must be a struggle to even learn the villain's weakness in the first place. And even if you know it, it doesn't mean the fight has to instantly be over. Make your characters fight tooth and nail to even use it in the first place. In the original comics run of Infinity Gauntlet, the heroes tried to exploit Thanos' pride, goading him into a fair fight. Sure enough, he handicapped himself, using only a fraction of his real power. But it was still a match overwhelmingly in his favor, and he wiped the floor with Marvel's heroes anyway. They also try to take the gauntlet, since he's relatively powerless without it. While this does end up being the key to his defeat, it's no easy task to pickpocket a guy who could kill you with a thought. And there's other ways than weaknesses. As with our first examples, traditional victory against a juggernaut can be satisfying if the effort it takes is sufficiently convincing. Saying that Goku becomes Super Saiyan and defeats Frieza undersells the emotion of the fight. The Z-Fighters pull out every trick in the book until they're beaten black and blue. The goal transitions from beating Frieza to surviving to stalling for time until Goku gets there. But even when Goku arrives, his best is only enough to keep him alive. Super Saiyan has the edge in strength, but it's not a curb stomp. It's still a nearly even battle. We do see and surpass Frieza's limit in strength, but it's after tens of episodes of sheer desperation. One of my favorite examples of the marathon method would have to be Demon Slayer. I'm not the biggest fan of the series overall, but the final villain lived up to his reputation to the bitter end. Tanjiro, even at the series end, could never stand a chance against Muzan alone. The King of Demons is already poisoned, and if they can keep him from escaping, the sunrise will kill him soon enough. But just holding him in one spot requires the utmost efforts of the entire cast. This takes 20 chapters and lasts 3 hours in universe. Many of them don't survive the ordeal, or walk away crippled for life. And yet, where one man's strength is nigh unlimited, the efforts of many surpass all limits, and at last he is finally defeated. Sure, it's by sunlight, a weakness we've known from the story's beginning, but it's still kept uncertain throughout the final arc, whether or not they'll live long enough to exploit it, and by the time they do, they've damn sure earned it. Conceptually, Muzan fits the bill of an invincible villain far better than Frieza does. It's best to reserve these villains for the end of a story, lest you face the problem of following up on such a threat. The King of Demons only lost because of a combination of factors: a trick he wasn't expecting, a prepared ambush, and the sacrifices of the strongest warriors of the era. If a new Muzan appeared, it wouldn't be a trivial matter to just defeat him again. On the other hand, the cast of DBZ quickly moves past Frieza's level of strength once they've defeated him. As soon as a limit is surpassed, it's surpassed for good, and he loses his status after the fact when new, stronger villains are introduced. By now, he's just become an arc villain, and the way power scaling is structured in DBZ, the same will happen to every antagonist that follows after him. Muzan also has a limit, but the story ends without the heroes reaching or surpassing it. A third way to effectively write an invincible villain is by having the heroes win without truly beating them. It's a common trope to see antagonists sealed away forever, put somewhere else, or just indirectly taken out of the picture. The version of Darkseid from the DC animated movies gets this a lot. They can't really kill him, so they just make sure he can't get to Earth. When he eventually does, they open a black hole and throw him in it, hoping he won't get out. They still go back and kill him as a baby, just to be on the safe side. Puss in Boots: The Last Wish also does this really well, though I'd hate to spoil the twist, because it's such a good movie. Puss has to realize that running away from his fear and the villain that embodies it won't save him. He has to stand his ground and prove how much he's grown, which endears him enough to the villain that they agree to leave him be, for now. In both cases, the heroes never get as strong or even stronger than their opponents, but they still put an end to the threat they pose. For all my criticism towards Dragon Ball, it actually has good examples of this strategy as well. Garlic Jr. is the only character to successfully wish for immortality, meaning that even if Goku is stronger than him, he'll win the war of attrition. But in his own hubris, he opens a portal to the Dead Zone to trap his opponents for all eternity. I guess it's more satisfying to beat them that way? As you might expect, he gets knocked into his own portal, and trapped forever in another dimension, unable to be killed, but also unable to die. Later on, in Dragon Ball Super, we have the brick wall that is Jiren, unable to be felled by reality's strongest warriors. In a fight to the death, it would be over for the Z Fighters. But this is a tournament. All they need is a ring out. So in one of the most creative sequences of the series, the remaining fighters coordinate and sacrifice themselves just to push him out of the arena, thus beating him on a technicality. It doesn't undermine his reputation, but lets the heroes still have their victory. Villains like Thanos, Muzan, Big Mom, Frieza, they could have just as easily taken the day had things gone differently. If done right, it keeps the viewers on the edge of their seat, and can break up the repetitive feeling of fights in your series. Unless you just make every fight feel hopeless. Congrats! You remade AOT. As always, thanks for watching. I'm sure there are plenty of examples you could add to this list, good or bad, but adding any more spoilers here might be pushing my luck. Still, I'd love to hear any suggestions you have, or comments on my choices. Until next time, see ya!